Welcome, my dear students and other viewers, to my Chapter 9 continuing coverage of molecular geometry and bonding theories. In this video, I'm going to teach you about molecular orbitals and molecular orbital energy diagrams. Okay, so thus far, we have talked a lot about atomic orbitals, and we did that in earlier videos linked to in the description below, or possibly floating as in video links above my head. We're now going to discuss molecular orbitals. So when individual atoms bond, their atomic orbitals, that is the sps and ds and f orbitals that they've got when they're individual atoms, actually combine and reshape and reconfigure to form new things called molecular orbitals. Those are orbitals that go all around a molecule, which is two or more atoms. Make sense? Thus, molecular orbitals are different from atomic orbitals. They are not the simple sp, ds, and f orbitals. Instead, molecular orbital shapes can be much more complicated depending on the size and nature of the molecule being formed. Once again then, please remember that atomic orbitals are the orbitals possessed by individual atoms, while entire molecules possess molecular orbitals, which we will now discuss. This idea is called molecular orbital theory. So every time two atomic orbitals get together and overlap to form a bond in a molecule, they actually form two different types of molecular orbitals, a bonding orbital and an anti-bonding orbital. This is illustrated in the following diagram showing the molecular orbitals for an H2 molecule. So you see that to form an H2 molecule, two separate H atoms come together with their individual atomic 1s orbitals that are each populated by a valence electron. They then combine to form an H2 molecule. Now, the orbital around this entire molecule is called a molecular orbital because it's the orbital for an entire molecule that has two H atoms in it. And you can see that it was kind of made by combining these individual atomic orbitals. Make sense? Now, anytime a molecular bonding orbital forms, there's another orbital called an anti-bonding orbital that also forms. And we represent that up here in this diagram. The bonding orbital down bottom is called a sigma 1s molecular orbital, and the one up top, the anti-bonding orbital, it's called a sigma star. Additionally, as with all energy diagrams, the higher vertically up anything is drawn, the higher in energy and hence less stable it is. Thus, anti-bonding orbitals are less stable than the corresponding bonding orbitals. Now, once these molecular bonding and anti-bonding orbital levels form, the electrons fill them up from the bottom. The bonding ones first, followed by the anti-bonding. Now, just like with atomic orbitals, each molecular orbital can only hold up to 2 electrons max. So for drawing an orbital energy diagram for our H2 molecule, we would bring together on the left this box that represents a 1s atomic orbital from one hydrogen and an analogous box on the right for the atomic orbital for the other hydrogen. We then draw in the middle something that looks like this with a lower in energy H2 molecular orbital, also called a sigma orbital, and then an analogous higher energy, less stable sigma star or anti-bonding orbital. Because there were 2 total valence electrons, one from each individual hydrogen atom brought to the table when this molecule formed, we now fill up the boxes in the middle, starting at the bottom. Again, we only have 2 total electrons to use to fill it up, and each box representing a molecular orbital can hold up to 2. So we'll just put them down here in the bottom. Now, the diagram here is called a molecular orbital, or MO, energy diagram. The anti-bonding orbital, once again, up top is at a higher energy level, which means it's less stable than the bonding orbital at the bottom. Now, one thing you should note is that having electrons in the anti-bonding orbital is destabilizing. That is, it reduces the molecule's stability. So if you have the same number of electrons in the anti-bonding orbital up here as you have in the bonding orbital, then the molecule is said to be completely unstable and hence impossible to form in real life, because the stabilizing effect of the bonding electrons gets canceled out by the destabilizing effect of the anti-bonding electrons. For example, the theoretical MO energy diagram for helium-2 is shown right here. Because helium is all the way to the right in row 1 of the periodic table, each helium atom has 2 valence electrons, represented at an individual atomic level as the electrons in the atomic orbitals on the left and right of this diagram. When we form molecular orbitals, both a bonding and anti-bonding orbital, we just do it by filling in this stuff here in the middle. You'll note, though, that here we have 4 total electrons to deal with, 2 from each individual helium atom. We have to then fill up the boxes in the middle with those 4 electrons starting at the bottom, 2 in the bottom and 2 at the top. I ask then this question, according to this diagram, why in the world does helium-2 not exist? Yeah, you can see it's because the total number of electrons in the anti-bonding orbital is equal to the number of electrons in the bonding orbital. When that occurs, the stabilizing effect of the bonding electrons gets canceled out by the destabilizing effect of the anti-bonding electrons. Thus, such a molecule should not exist on paper, and in fact does not exist in real life. Alright, so how in the world do you draw an MO energy diagram? Well, to draw a simple MO energy diagram for any molecule comprised of two atoms from columns 1 or 2 of the periodic table, all you do is draw two boxes which represent the atomic s orbitals at the same energy level, or same horizontal level, to the left and right of each other, like this. Then you add arrows to each box going up and down to indicate the number of s valence electrons from each atom, like this. So in this example, in which I'm just showing two hydrogen atoms, I'm only showing one valence electron in each of these boxes. And the reason, of course, is because hydrogen atoms only have one valence electron apiece. But you could have one or two in each or both boxes, depending on what the elements are that you're bonding. Next, we add two more boxes in between the previous two, one above and one below. Now the upper box is the anti-bonding molecular orbital, and the lower one is your bonding molecular orbital. We then add cute little lines like this. Now remember, the higher the box, the higher in energy and hence less stable it is. And last, we fill in these in-between boxes, that is these molecular orbitals, with the same number of electrons as your total from the boxes on the right and the left, starting from the bottom and working our way up. You can see that in this example, I have two total electrons along the horizontal. So I want to place them in the center, starting at the bottom box. Remembering that I can have up to two total electrons per box. One with a spin up and one with a spin down, just like this. Now, as I stated a moment ago, if you have the same number of electrons in your anti-bonding orbital, that is your box up here, as you have in your bonding orbital down here, then your molecule is too unstable to exist. This dovetails beautifully into me teaching you about bond order. So a molecule's bond order is determined by using the following equation, where bond order is equal to 1/2 multiplied by the number of bonding electrons, subtract the number of anti-bonding electrons in your molecular orbital energy diagram. The greater a molecule's bond order, the stronger and more stable, or lower in energy, its bond will be. A stronger and more stable bond is also a shorter length bond. So shorter bonds are stronger bonds. A bond order of 0 indicates that the molecule is too unstable to form and hence will not exist. In other words, in your MO diagram, the number of electrons in the top box would be equal to the number of electrons in the bottom box for a bond order of 0. Which takes us to a beautiful series of problems listed right here. I'm not going to read them to you, but I invite you to instead try them on your own, and then if you like, you can click the link in the description below, or possibly floating over my head, to a separate video in which I will answer many, not all, but many of these for you. Until then, my dear students, please have a wonderful rest of your day.